In the early days of computers, Gail and I had to send floppy disks back and forth in the mail.
There were frustrating attempts to do teleconferencing through various services.
Constraints. I haven't really run into too many. I mean, there's always time, there's always people's other projects. So, recently, kind of an extension of the RPG project, James and I met with librarians about building a digital archive of video game footage. The constraint there was copyright.
Because I know you're INFJ, right? And I'm ENFJ.
But you do have competing interests, and that's what's cool about those collaborations is you have people with multiple purposes and looking at the topic, but you still have to synthesize it for that project. And those can become more clear and solidify and go together, or they can diverge, and you can get good. I think you can get good stuff out of that either way. You just have different numbers of gray hairs depending on the approach.
But at least with the Kairos web text I collaborated on, multimodality in motion, I think there were 8 of us all together, and that was hard to get us all on the same page. Just it's the sheer number of people, and then to even try and come up with a concept that would artfully identify and demarcate whose work was whose, and also maintain accessibility. Most of us identify as disabled, but all have very different lived experiences with disability or what disability means. And so that was really built into the design process, which was cool, but also really frustrating, just in terms of revising and trying to then also figure out distribution of labor.
We have certain idealistic views of collaboration as always productive, and I don't want to impose that on my students.
It's back on your teaching and able to think about the work that your students are doing, and then when you ask them to do group work or you ask them to get into partner work, what is then actually being done, the amount of energy it takes to then collaborate and talk with someone. So I think it's so easy to get into the position of a graduate student or instructor, these are the things that we do all the time.
It's going to be a deep investment of time, and that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, and it is, unfortunately, academics is built on a time clock.
I think it's really important that you try it at least once. I would say probably a couple of times, because the first time, it's not going to be great, probably, because you have I was exactly the same way before I collaborated, where it was just this is terrible. When you do group work, you always have people who don't do things, and you have to pick up the slack. But especially, I think, when you're a little bit further along in your career, and you're a graduate student, and everybody's a high achiever, and everybody's going to try to put in 400%. It's a very different experience, and I think it's kind of the future of a lot of the work that is going to happen in rhetoric and composition. So it's a fluency, I think, that a lot of people need to practice at least a couple of times.